Rob Dibble Show with Ben Darnell on your afternoon drive. Joining us on the Bobby V's hotline, Dom Amore from the Hartford Current, covers Uconn sports, also covering MLB for many, many years as a Hall of Fame vote. Dom, how are you, sir?
Good, Rob. What's happening?
I don't know. Watching some Uconn basketball the other day against Rhode Island in that Hall of Fame exhibition game. What were your thoughts on the new look Uconn back-to-back champion? They're trying to defend those back-to-back championships. What did you think of the team?
Well, I thought they looked pretty good in a lot of ways. The first half they were a little bit out of sync maybe, but the second half they were really kind of up to their old tricks, really moving the ball around the way they did with their other teams. Kind of playing offense at a maybe a little more sophisticated level than their opponent. Rhode Island, I think, ended up having to play a lot of hero ball, which is kind of plays into UConn's hands. So I thought for a first viewing, it was pretty good. I mean, how that's going to translate going forward against better teams, I don't know. But, I didn't really see anything that I didn't like in that game.
Don, we were talking before the show started in the studio, just trying to find parallels from the last two teams, from this roster and this team, and a little bit of the action that we saw at Mohegan Sun. And one parallel that we have noticed is in the first national championship, Tyrese Martin was the guy who could lock down anyone on the other team. Last year, it was Stephon Castle got that assignment every single night. He would lock down the best scorer on any of the teams. And this is through the tournament as well. Now, this time around, who is that guy who is locked down? I shouldn't say Tyrese as well as Andre Jackson, bringing him up for the first national championship. Sorry about that. But all those guys were the guy for Hurley to count on with that assignment. And just asking ourselves before the show started, like, who is that guy this year?
Well, I would say right now it's probably Diarra. I mean, he could shut down. He would be the guy that would come in like when Castle sat down and defend that guy. So I would say he would be the first option, particularly if it's a guard, if it's a backcourt type player. But I think the idea is going to be to develop somebody like that. And it could be, I know a lot of the guys that they've brought in are you think of them as more as offensive players. But certainly I think, Solomon Ball could be that guy, or Ross or Stewart could be that guy. But I think right now, I think that the most accomplished shutdown defender, the type of guy you're talking about, within limits because of the size and position he plays, would probably be Diarra.
As far as, this Terrace Reed, he had 10 rebounds. I think he's going to have like 10 to 15 every game, as big as he is. What were your thoughts on some of the acquisitions through the transfer portal that, again, may get them back to a championship game, or at least back to maybe the Elite Eight or Final Four? I mean, that's what I think that Dan Hurley tries to set up this team as.
Well, I think you have to remember that it's going to look different because these aren't the same players. They may be just as good. They may, in some cases, be better, but the skill sets are different. The characteristics are different. So it's going to look different, but that doesn't mean you can't have the same or similar result. I liked a lot of what I saw from, Mahaney. I thought he was really a pest, kind of getting his nose in there, tipping balls away, and then getting open and shooting. It looks like, he's not Cam Spencer. There's only one of those. But he looks like he might be almost kind of a hybrid of Spencer and Calcaterra. That he's kind of more Calcaterra's size, but he might have something closer to Spencer's skills. Whether he has that kind of fire, I don't know. That again, that if you're looking for that, you may never find that again. I think that Reed, I thought, looked much better in the second half. I think he's a little bit of a work in progress, but I think the two of those centers in tandem are going to give them an answer for most big men combinations that they're going to face. And I thought, McNeely in flashes looked really, really good. I thought he came and scored the first bucket of the game. I think he's going to be a really, really good player, but he's a freshman, and it's going to take him some time to learn the defense that Dan wants to play and maybe some of the intricacies of that offense that they use. So I thought, again, you don't know what it's going to look like when the season goes along. It's going to look different, but that doesn't mean they can't have the same results. And I thought the way they played in the second half is an indication that they could have maybe similar results.
How about the guy we know all about? Alex Karaban's back again. This will be his third go-around. 2 national championships already under his belt. To refresh people's memory, he was going to be slotted in the second round of the NBA draft, and before that happened, declared to come back to college. So he's obviously trying to improve his draft stock, and I have seen that he is, tabbed as possibly being player of the year in the Big East. What are expectations for this guy realistically, though, this year with all these newcomers and trying to repeat again as national champion?
Well, I think the expectations are just what you threw out there, Ben. I think he's a guy that should be the best player in the Big East. There shouldn't be anybody in the Big East who's much, much better than him. If he's not, he should be a first-team All-Big East player. He's been there 3 years. He's been a starter for 3 years on the best team in college basketball for now, the 2 years running. And so I think it's realistic to expect, especially, I think would have been a second-round pick. I think people who know the NBA draft better than I do have told me that he would have gotten drafted if he went in the draft. And so I think it's fair to expect him to be certainly one of the 2 or 3 best players in the Big East, if not the best. And I'm sure Alex expects that of himself.
Talking to Dom Amore from the Hartford Courant. Let's turn to baseball. Yankees up 2-0 over the Cleveland Guardians. Pretty sloppy play the first 2 games by the Guardians. But your thoughts on the Yankees? They need 2 more to get to the World Series, and I'm pretty sure it's the first time they would get back since 2009. But my thoughts are, do they have the pitching depth? And what do you think of Holmes now as more of a middleman closer, and Weaver is the young closer that's out there now finishing games?
Well, I mean, the way they're finishing games is working. It's working magnificently. It has been since the last couple of weeks of the season. I would have preferred that he stayed away from Weaver last night. I thought he had a chance to get him a day, or try to get through the ninth without him, and maybe give him a day, an extra day's rest, and not expose him to that lineup as many times as he's going to have to. But their bullpen has been very effective and very efficient. But you look at some of these other teams that like the Dodgers are throwing 15 arms at you, and the Yankees really only have. It seems like the circle of trust has now gotten very narrow for the Yankees. Hill and Holmes and Weaver, and I'm not sure at Canely, and I'm not sure that it's a smaller circle of trust that they're going to have to use to get by these next few games. But I think the Yankees are doing a lot of things, Rob, that they have not been doing in the postseason the last 10 or 12 years. They're pushing runs across without home runs. They're hitting some home runs, but they're pushing runs across without them. They're winning close, low-scoring games. They're making a few more mistakes defensively or on the bases than they should be making this time of year. But I feel like they're not completely reliant on the home run. They've got a little speed. They can do a few different things to get runs across. And their starting pitching, generally has been good. Cole's been shaky a couple of times, great another time. Rodon obviously was great the other day. Schmidt was good. I think they certainly have enough pitching to get through this series. But when they get to the next one, it's going to be a level above. The Dodgers are extremely explosive. They have a lot of arms that they can throw at you, so you're not going to see the same look every. Judge is going to could see 4 different looks against in a game against them, and the Mets are just the Mets. I mean, they're playing fantastic, and they're getting a tremendous clutch play from a lot of people. And don't forget, one of the things that kind of started the Yankees on their free fall in June is losing all 4 games they played against the Mets. So that would be a very tough matchup for them. But the Yankees have played 6 games. They've won 5. Yankee fans are unhappy about 17 different things. Which is
always
the nature of being a Yankee fan, I guess. But they played 6 games. They've won 5. There's not much more you can ask.
They added Marcus Stroman for this series to the roster. Where does he fit in that circle of trust you speak of?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, my guess is he fits in a lost cause game to come in and take up some innings, or he might fit in a game where the starting pitcher just has a lead but struggles, and they really need somebody to pitch 3 or 4 innings. But he hasn't pitched in so long
right,
that it's hard for me to fathom them running him out there in a tie game in the 7th inning. I don't think that's going to be his role. I think it's going to be a so-called low leverage situation for him. Or if you get in, don't forget, there's no ghost runner in the playoffs, right? So if you get into extra innings, you may need somebody who could throw 4 or 5 innings, and maybe he's the guy that can do that. But he just kind of fell. Let's face it, he didn't pitch that well the second half, and when you're on a playoff bound staff and you don't pitch well the last couple of months, you're bound to fall off the radar for the postseason. People sometimes remember Doc Gooden was the Yankees' best pitcher the first half of '96. He threw a no-hitter. wasn't really in their postseason roster. So, he's kind of just fallen off the radar, and he could, when he gets this opportunity, if he pitches well, he could be right back on it. But I think they'd like to have Cortez for the next series in that kind of a role, because I think they would trust Cortez in a close game right now more than they would Stroman. At least that's my belief.
Want to give some props to Gleyber Torres. His on-base percentage over 400. He's hitting around 300. He scored the most runs, 7 runs in the postseason so far, but and second most total bases. Your thoughts on this guy? You need guys like him, Verdugo, Volpe, to step up, and those guys have really stepped up in the postseason. Chisholm, Wells, and Judge are the guys that aren't really doing a whole lot.
Right. Well, you're right. I mean, the Yankees, for any team to win, you can't depend on 1 or 2 guys to carry the offense. If that's what you have, they're just going to walk. They're going to walk those guys. Or you see what with Judge. He's facing their nasty 8th inning guy in the 3rd inning yesterday. Mm-hmm. I mean these teams are going to manage and line up their bullpen to stop Judge and to stop Soto. So the other guys have to contribute a little bit. And Gleyber's played great. The second half of the year he was much better. Late in the season he was quite a bit better, and in the playoffs he's been very good as well. He's getting on base. He's a guy who can run. He's a little mistake prone, and that's something that you live with him. But his career with the Yankees has been. It's been kind of hard to really figure out. 5 years ago he put up MVP numbers at age 23 or 22. Then he's had some good. It's easy when you give up on him, then he plays better. Like last year, he had a pretty good year. I don't know what to make of him, but he's playing really, really well right now, and he's giving the Yankees something to think about. I think people who assumed that he would be gone and Chisholm would be the second baseman next year, now maybe you're looking at it and thinking, Chisholm at 3rd. And Gleyber at 2nd doesn't look too bad for next year if you can hold on to Gleyber and Soto at the same time. So he's played great. Verdugo has given him just enough, and he gives him good defense. You can't put Dominguez out there and maybe lose a game with his defense. So as long as Verdugo chips in a little bit, but Volpe chipped in a little bit, which is all you need. And if Judge starts to heat up, maybe last night gets him going. Now you're really in business. Soto's been fine as far as getting on base. So, again, the most impressive thing or the most encouraging thing, I think, if you're a Yankee fan, Rob, is that they're scoring runs without Judge going crazy and hitting home runs. They're pushing enough runs across to win, and they're locking it down with a lead. That's what the Yankees did in the 90s, and that's what they're doing now.
Dom, have you heard anything on the Tampa Bay Rays and their stadium? I know they're building a new stadium, but they got the roof ripped off by Hurricane Milton last week. Have you heard any initial talk on what the plan is for the Tampa Bay Rays for the 25 season?
Boy, I'll tell you, I haven't heard anything officially, but that they're not going to be able to have that stadium repaired in order to play next year, I don't think. They can't play without the roof because there's no drainage, so they'll be playing in puddles. So they're going to need some kind of a temporary place to play at the start of next year. Is the way it looks. I mean, and I don't know where that would be because I don't think there's anything there's anything like that around there. I mean,
Schedule the off weeks in Miami.
Miami or Montreal.
Yeah, Miami or Montreal.
Yeah. Or
Puerto Rico. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of places you can play, and you'll probably draw more fans.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Could they somehow maybe knock a couple of walls out of the rent and put them up here for
Love it.
half a year?
Love the idea.
I love the idea, man.
Where you're thinking.
That would be fantastic. I know where you're going with that.
Excellent.
I love it. Dom Amore, you're the best. Thank you so much, sir. And we will talk to you soon. Enjoy the rest of the playoffs. I'm sure we'll talk before the World Series or at the World Series.
Yeah, you got it, Rob. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Everybody check out Dom's stuff online. Fabulous writer and covering the game and covering all the Uconn sports for us. We appreciate it. Take a quick break, come back, do first dibs question of the day, and then the power poll is out.
Kelly.
Oh, yeah. The Connecticut college football poll. We'll talk about that next hour. Rob Dibble Show with Ben Darnell in your afternoon drive. Kirk Kaplan on the ones and twos. John Ashmead is on the YouTube video. We'll be right back.